my name's Chad Howland. I'm a faculty instructor in the School of Physical Therapy at Husson University in Bangor, Maine. And I teach gross anatomy along with musculoskeletal assessment and intervention. My background is as a physical therapist with a concentration in orthopedic manual therapy. So our anatomy course is very heavy-handed in musculoskeletal system and looking at innervation of somatic tissue structures. And so I've been using Visible Body in the gross anatomy classroom and integrating it into the lab where we have a cadaver lab, but we also do surface anatomy palpation with students. We've been using that going on now. This will be our third academic year using the Courseware platform in conjunction with our Canvas platform as well. I've been using Visible Body applications probably since about 2014 when I was in clinical practice and used it in the clinic with patients, showing them various images and 3D models of the anatomy. What I'll do today is I want to just show you a few things. I'll be able to share my screen and kind of take you through the courseware platform that I'm currently revising and working on for my course that's going to be in about 6 weeks or so. So I'm just going to go ahead and take you right to the courseware platform. So the Visible Body courseware platform, you know, every year when our new cohort of students come in, Visible Body provides us with the access codes to send to the students. When I create the platform that I intend to publish for that class, I send them an invitation, a link, and the students are able to click on that link, and from that point they can start the registration process using their access codes. And once they've registered and they've accepted the invite, the names of the students populate into the roster. So at this point, like probably in the next couple weeks or so, I'll start seeing the students' names trickle in, and I can start managing the roster, which also populates into the gradebook that is part of the Visible Body courseware. One of the interesting features with the courseware this past year is that Visible Body is now utilizing the courseware to correlate with Moore's clinically oriented anatomy text, along with the Grant's Dissector. I believe either the 16th edition or 17th edition, but Emily can probably verify that. We use the Grant's Dissector in our anatomy lab. So this year it works perfect for us to have that correlation between the courseware that they've developed that correlates with the different chapters in the dissector. As you can see here, what I've pulled up on the screen is the different chapters that correlate with the dissector. And each one of these chapters has various what they call assignments. For instance, you can see that we start off with overview of innervation of the limbs and body wall, and then progress into an overview of the vertebral column, and then the superficial muscles of the back. What's nice about this is I can tailor the courseware for my needs. So even though it correlates with the dissector that we use in the lab, we're not necessarily lecturing in a similar sequence. So the challenge becomes as an instructor to kind of orchestrate everything together so everything makes sense for the students. But the nice thing about coming into the courseware is that I can publish or click on to these various assignments, and I can tailor them specifically to my course and what I'm going to be teaching maybe in that particular unit. And then if there's other areas or other assignments that I know that I'm going to get to later on in the course. So for instance, like when we get to the deep layers of the back later on in our course, then I can come back into this platform and publish those assignments. And I'll show you how I link those to our Canvas platform that we use for the course as well. But this allows us the ability to set up virtual assignments for students to review before the lab, before they come in and do human donor dissection. We utilize some of these assignments too to help reinforce material that we're using in our lectures, because we've now moved to a flipped classroom concept with our gross anatomy course. And so if I just open up one of these assignments, so superficial muscles of the back, for instance, you can see that Visible Body has written out certain instructions and descriptions and things that the students should identify once they open up the app. When they click on the upper back, that's going to take them to the 3D virtual dissection. And from there, the students utilize a course resource guide, and Visible Body provides those as well. Our program has designed our own course manual, which we have now tailored to the courseware platform. So students have a guide that they can look at the various muscles and then be able to review the specific origin and assertions, actions, and innervation of those muscles while they're looking at the 3D anatomy. So if I could just take you to my Canvas platform, what you'll notice though is that there are links to each one of these assignments. So if I just show you here quickly, you can see in that top bar that you have a courseware.visiblebody.com, and it has a very specific sequence of numbers. So we can copy and paste that, and actually we can embed that as a link within our Canvas platform. This is my Canvas platform that I'm currently working on right now, so it's certainly not completed. But if I take you to that same module for the superficial back and shoulder girdle, I can begin to show you how we have these links embedded there. So it just takes a minute just for some of the images to upload, but we use Visible Body images as a bit of an introduction, along with some images from the Grants Dissector. When we set up our pages, we also have electronic text that we use, but we've started utilizing the Visible Body app to do screened videos, where we can use OMatic technology to record off on the iPad us going through the 3D anatomy. And so we sometimes will use this as a precursor to the cadaver lab, so students can see in maybe a 5-minute, very concise video, what we're going to be doing for dissection for that particular day or unit. We've utilized the images too to embed within our lectures that we do audio-visual recordings of using OMatic. So that's been something new that we've utilized. I think is starting to work really well. But as you can see, we've embedded here, for example, in our virtual dissection lab, links to the courseware. So for instance, if we wanted to review Grants Dissector correlations, for example, the rotator cuff, if I click on that link, and as long as the students have already logged into Visible Body Courseware, it'll take them right to it and right to that assignment. They don't necessarily have to go in and start and go click on multiple drop boxes to get there. The key thing, lessons that we've learned, is that if you're going to integrate these links into courseware, you got to make sure to let your students know that they need to be logged into the courseware first, and then that automatically takes them right to the assignment. If they didn't log into the courseware, when they go to click, it's just going to take them into the sign-in page, and they have to enter in their username and password. The fewer steps that we can have, the students seem to be more compliant with utilizing the technology and accessing it through its connections with Canvas and then to the courseware page. So we've set up our program to work that way, so we can have a connection between Canvas and the courseware platform. In addition, we utilize this in the lab where we have iPads that are hooked up to HDMI adapters. And as long as, obviously we have to have a clean hands or glove policy. Whoever's manipulating the iPad, must not be in contact with anything like formalin or any of the chemicals or tissues in the lab. But we can bring that up onto a large screen and televisions within our lab and go through the anatomy with them and kind of lead them through as they're going through their dissections in the lab, which we hope to do more of that this year. And certainly with what's now been going on with social distancing, it's really forced us now to have to think outside the box of how we're going to integrate these things virtually, especially when we have to now reduce the number of students per section and flipping the classroom as well. And I think this is where this technology is really going to be able to help us this academic year and certainly beyond. So so for any of you that use Canvas or Blackboard, you can certainly integrate courseware into it by embedding the links. And I think that can be a help to students. So it kind of seems like it's more of a one-stop shop. So if there are any questions, I know that was probably a little bit brief, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you have and show you some more things that we're using the technology with, and in particular how we can embed images into other programs like ExamSoft.
Great, thank you so much, Chad. So go ahead and either raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or post a question in the chat. So okay, Rhonda, go ahead. I think you just have to unmute yourself on your end, and you can go ahead and.
Chad, my question is about the cadaver lab.
Yes.
Are you saying you're running a cadaver lab simultaneously with using the visible body?
Yes. So what we do is we have an iPad that's linked to the lab, and that iPad is hooked up so we can project up onto a screen if we wanted to show 3D images from Visible Body. So if they're dissecting a particular area, maybe like the anterior neck, we can bring up those images for them so they can see them in the lab. So we also utilize them in our surface anatomy palpation lab, where there's the feature for the augmented reality. So there are times where we might project up onto a screen an image of the student's arm, and then we have the augmented reality overlaying directly over the arm, showing the anatomy of the musculature during those types of activities in our surface anatomy palpation lab.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So next, Kristen Wright.
Hello, thank you for taking my question. I'm very interested in this OMatic software. Is this something that's within Visible Body, or is it a separate platform that you have to buy into, or what? Thank you.
Yeah, the OMatic is something that I access through the university. So my university has an account, and they have like different packages. Like you can go and sign up for free, but the only thing is that they only allow you to video record maybe upwards of 15 minutes at a time. So there's different packages with OMatic. That's the one that I use through the university. But what it allows you to do is when I just take an iPad that I have at home, and as I'm working through the app and looking at, okay, well, how would I want to orchestrate this presentation of the anatomy? I do a screen recording, and then I'm able at that point to go into their editing portion of their site, and I can edit it and then do a voiceover. So Visible Body has their own videos of the 3D anatomy, and we use those as well. So for example, with the rotator cuff, for example, I think an individual, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but it'll come to me. He's a prominent sports physical therapist in Boston. He does a nice one on the anatomy and function of the rotator cuff. And we'll use that in anatomy, but we may also use that in our musculoskeletal assessment courses. And so there's other clinicians and physicians out there that are doing animated videos that have been done through Visible Body, that Visible Body has through their courseware. So that was kind of a little bit of an inspiration for me to do some specific videos on my end, especially that we're having to flip the classroom now. And it allows me the opportunity to, one of the best features I've seen in the last couple of years is that Visible Body now has it when you click on a bone, let's say for instance the humerus, you can click on an icon that will show you the different bony landmarks, but then there's another one that's a pin. And when you click on that, it shows the origin and insertion markers on the bone. So the students can go in and they can click on, let's say, a red pin, and it will show the origin of a particular muscle. Or if they click on the blue colored portion of the bone, it'll show them the insertion of a muscle. And so that's really a helpful feature that we use with the students so they can understand their bony landmarks and anatomy and origin and insertions. So that's a really nice feature. And we'll sometimes integrate that into our Screen-O-Matic videos if we're talking about very specific descriptives of the anatomy of the muscle.
Great. Actually, we could show that. I don't know, Chad, you want to show it, or Kristie Link could show the origins and insertions, and also maybe just a snippet of the voiceover videos that you were talking about.
Sure. Yeah. If Kristie Link could do that, I just don't know if with my
Sure.
with my
No
bandwidth
problem.
that'll be too much.
There we go. So what Chad was mentioning was looking here at in the Human Anatomy Atlas. If we go to one of the system views here, a little bit of a slow internet, sorry about that. If we're looking here and click on any of the muscles, we will have a content box in the top right corner. And the red pin here is, I'm going to make it a little bigger on my screen to see if that's working. So here is where you can drill in to take a closer look at the origin and insertion points. The blue pins are the insertion, and then you can move over to the red pins, which show the origin point. And then we can also add in the blood supply and the innervation, and we can look at all of the details here together as well.
And if you don't mind, Kristie, if you could go back out to the systems view again.
Sure.
And go to the skeletal one. That's just the full skeleton.
Yes.
And once you click there, can you go ahead and click on the humerus, right or left? And then if you can go to the colored icon there for the bones, perfect, and click on that. One of the features there, great. So we had the bony landmark feature that I was talking about, but then if you go to the muscle attachments, this is another avenue that you can use. What I like about this feature, if we can go and maybe click on anywhere on the near the head of the humerus, we'll see if we get one of the rotator cuff muscles. So then once you click on that, it'll show you what muscle's inserting there, but it should pull up the actual muscle too. Yes, right there, perfect. So once they click on it, they can actually see the muscle in its insertion point onto the bone. There's a lot of interesting features that Visible Body's really utilized with allowing us to add tags. So even in the gross anatomy lab, the virtual lab that they have, we can set the parameters so when we click on a muscle, we can say, well, let's add a tag, and it either will have a tag with the name of the muscle, or we can actually in one of the I think it was one of the places there, we can actually have the tag but not have the name of the muscle. So if we wanted the students to have a blank tag and say identify this, they could do that. And sometimes we'll use that in the classroom as a learning activity where we will tag a muscle but it will not have any indicator, and then we'll say, okay, let's kind of poll the class and tell me what muscle this is. So these are really useful, especially if you're doing screenshots. So for instance, maybe you want to just do a downloaded image, which you can do through the app, and you just want maybe 2 or 3 muscles that are tagged. This can work really nicely. And we'll usually do that and then post them into our PowerPoint presentations for students, for example. We've utilized learning assignments as well, and one assignment that we're doing this year with students is we're having them do a comparative anatomy between the elbow, wrist, and hand, and the leg, foot, and ankle, and we're going to have them utilizing Visible Body to kind of do a little bit of a comparative analysis between the two in a kind of PowerPoint presentation format that they'll present at the end of the course. So there's definitely various types of learning activities that you could build off in some of these things.
Great. Thanks, Chad. And then Kristie Link, if you could show that, sorry, it's
No, no.
the educational video series.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in our Muscle Premium app. So, you know, kind of Atlas and A&P tend to be the heavy hitters, but Muscle Premium has this beautiful, very useful educational video series that Kristie Link will show you, that the rotator cuff.
I think I keep skipping it. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Lenny Macrina, and I'm a physical therapist and orthopedic and sports medicine rehabilitation specialist. Today, I'll be talking about basic anatomy and the biomechanics of the shoulder joint. The shoulder joint, made up of the humerus bone and the glenoid of the scapula, is characterized as having the greatest amount of motion in the body. Compared to other joints in the body, the shoulder joint is extremely loose, which allows tremendous amounts of motion to reach up, around, and behind the back. Injury or disuse may result in loss of mobility and therefore loss of function. The anatomy of the shoulder joint can be broken down into 2 main categories: static and dynamic stabilizers. The static stabilizers are the articular capsule, ligaments, and bony configuration. So these are tissues that don't contract but serve as a means of support for the shoulder. Here is the...
Is it helpful if I keep playing?
I think that's good, unless anybody else wants to see. And by all means, we will follow up with everybody after this webinar, and you know, we are happy to provide free trials so you can get in and explore on your own. I am going to go to Jeffrey, who had a question. Hang on one second. I just got to find him. Sorry about that. This is my biggest challenge sometimes, finding people. Maybe he got disconnected. So, all right, maybe we'll come back to Jeffrey. I'm going to go to, let's see if Ed had a question, Ed Rains. So go ahead, Ed. I unmuted you. You just might have to unmute yourself. He actually wrote it in the chat, so I can ask it for him. which is how do you conduct lab practical exam using Visible Body?
So when we conduct our lab exams, they're strictly cadaver based. So we do tags within the cadaver dissections that we do in the lab. What we use Visible Body for identification questions on multiple choice written exams, fill in the blanks, quizzes as well. So even though the feature in courseware is that you could set up a quiz that would be identification, you certainly could do that if you don't have a cadaver lab. But when we do different exams, multiple choice exams, I will incorporate images or screenshots that I've taken, often the Visible Body courseware or app, and integrate that into our multiple choice short answer exam. But probably Emily or Kristie Link could probably speak more to anyone else that's using virtual identifications for lab practicals.
Sure. Yeah, I think, Kristie Link, if you could show the dissection quizzes, just show an example of a dissection quiz. So we have a whole quiz bank in courseware, and one of the highlights are these dissection quizzes, which are, you know, they have the students working hands-on with the 3D models to identify structures and actually dissect. You can set it up so they have to actually dissect away structures to find a structure on the inside. So this is one way to do it, and then we can talk about a way to do more of the lab practical, where you have a blank tag and then you want the student to write their answer. You can definitely do that with a short answer question.
So this is an example here of the dissection quiz, where students will really be assessed for their understanding of where the anatomy is. They may have to move items out of the way before they can find their answer. Once they find their answer, they will then select it and it will highlight in blue, and they will go to the submit button. And then there will be the next question at the bottom.
Great. And I think it'd be helpful, Kristie Link, if you could show everybody the quiz bank.
Yeah, let's go there.
It's available.
So here from your courseware page, the quiz bank is on the left-hand side above the My Apps item. And in the quiz bank, you can really filter easily to find all of the the types of quizzes that we offer. We have multiple choice, short answer, and dissection. The dissection and multiple choice quizzes will auto grade for you, and the short answer ones will be up to you to grade. They will all populate into your gradebook. But if we do want to search here for a specific quiz, we can look by topic, and we can also go even deeper in the categories to a subtopic. And then you also can search for Bloom's level. There's also a nice keyword search function, so you can easily find something based on a keyword. And then this is going to show you the different results that we have for the types of questions you're looking for. When you highlight the quiz here on the left side in blue, it will show you a quick preview on the right. So you can see this one has 9 questions, and it will actually let you take a look at what the questions are and which models are being used. And then if you want to look at it the way we just were, you would click Preview Quiz. Now, all of this is customizable. So if you like the quiz, but maybe you want to take out one question, or you want to add questions to it to make it a fuller exam, you can just go to the clone option and then rename it or name it something like a copy. And we'll put this here at the top of the list. Now I can come in here and edit this quiz, and I can edit everything from the naming convention of it. I can also edit here the topics and categorization of it, so I can easily find it. And then down at the bottom, we can choose to randomize our question order and pool the questions. So if I wanted every student to get 7 of 9 of the questions, for example, I could do that. Here's where you can also customize the weight of each question. And we can actually get rid of questions here. If you'd like to add questions, that's at the very top. And that was just be clicking on the add more questions, and then it will take you to all of the questions available. And you would simply click the blue check, make a blue check mark in there and say save and next.
So it seems like to me that you've obviously been developing this and refining it over the last couple of years, because that certainly looks to be definitely more efficient than a couple of years ago. So that looks like that's a really nice feature.
Thank you. Yes, there's always, we're constantly improving, and by fall, I'm pretty sure by fall, we will have a lot more added to the quiz bank, including those gross anatomy lab models. So you could ask your students to really do look for a structure within the whole body. We've been asked for that, so that's coming. And then more questions on microanatomy, things like that. And so, yeah, like Kristie Link showed you, you have a lot of, and like Chad was discussing earlier, there's just a very high level of customization with this platform. You really can make it your own. So we provide all of this content, but you can take it and really modify it and change it to what works best for you and your students. So Kristie Link was showing you how you can remove, add, and questions to quizzes. You can also create your own dissection quizzes and questions rather. That's really easy too. So we provide basically a library of 3D models, and if we don't have a quiz question, or we don't ask for a particular structure that you require your students to know, you can build that on your own, and it's fairly simple. It's just a few steps that Kristie Link is walking through right now.
So here's where you'll go and enter in the question, and then step 2 is asking you to choose the view, and you can choose from all of these views that we have available. You can search for a keyword if you want to find something more easily. And this is where Emily mentioned we'll have those gross anatomy lab views offered here coming soon as well. And you can use the filter for topics. And then this will show the model for the students to dissect in that quiz question.
And then we don't have to walk through the steps, but just so you know, these questions that you create are auto-graded as well. So you would then just you can choose the level of difficulty. So for example, if you just want your students to identify a general area, you can choose multiple correct answers. Or if you want to be more specific and say, no, I want the left particular structure, you can choose that, so that the system, you have control over what the system accepts for correct and incorrect answers. That's it right there. It's just the library of structures that the system will accept as a correct answer. And then once you're done, and it auto-corrects. Auto-grades, I should say, not correct. Whoops.
So they're very easy for the students.
Yeah, yes. Just get 100%. We have a question to show the gradebook.
Sure. So I will actually come into a sample where I know I have some grades. Your gradebook will show up on the left-hand side of your item bar, and all of your students will be listed in alphabetical order by last name. Your grades will all be listed here for all of their assignments. This is also the place to come if you need to give any kind of extension or curve or modify any of the quiz details. If you need to just extend it for one person, for example, for one quiz, or just give them one more additional attempt, for example, you can do that here. The gradebook also is able to be exported here to your LMS system. We have Blackboard, Canvas, D2L, Moodle. Sakai and then a standard CSV. So this is a really nice feature so that you don't have to manually enter your grades from courseware into your LMS. You can export it all in one, and then the LMS that you're using, if it's one of these listed, will like the formatting and it will be able to upload it really nicely for you into your LMS.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we just got a question from Amelia. Do the students only see their grades? I'm going to unmute you, Amelia. I think it'd be great to hear from you. Go ahead.
I was curious as to what the students see in the gradebook here. I think you've got the student preview on, and I see several people listed. So I wanted to know if the students only have access to their grade, or do they see other names listed?
So that's a good question, Emily. I think the answer is that they would only see their own answer, their
Okay.
own grades. Is that correct?
I would
That
assume
is
that's true.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's absolutely true.
Okay.
Great. All right. Any other questions? Rhonda, I'm going to unmute you. Sorry. Second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so she just brought up another point, because a lot of students want to review what they got wrong so they can study and prepare for an exam. When they do an assignment and once the grade comes into the grade book, are they able to go back and look and see where they made the errors?
Yes. You can control that. Yeah. So they can go in and see the quiz results.
It should look like this for them, right, Emily?
Yes. I'm pretty sure. Yes. Let me, I will get 100% answer for you.
See, what I do normally is that after a period of time, like a week, I allow the students to go back in and look at their errors so they can prepare for the big exam.
Yes. They do get feedback for sure. So I'll just double check on just to make sure. I just want to make sure that they can still get the feedback once the quiz has passed. So
Right.
I'm going to get that 100% answer for you. So is that what you'd like though? So to have the quiz results with the details available to students throughout the course?
Yes, after all the sections of students have taken the exam, then they should be able to review that, because when you get the big 100-point test, you want them to not make the same mistake twice.
Absolutely. All right, so we will find out for sure, but yes, they do get their feedback. Thank you. Any other questions, Rhonda, while you're unmuted?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm going to go to Geeta. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think my question was very similar to Rhonda's, where I wanted to know if students could see what they got right or wrong on a quiz, and then if they can review older quizzes while preparing for an exam. So I think you answered those questions already.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And to that too, when you're creating an assignment, when you're creating a quiz, I'm just going to create new assignment to the quiz bank. And when you assign a quiz, so I'm just going to choose here, you do get to choose the how the feedback is delivered to them. So if you want them to see the correct answers at the end of the quiz, you can allow them to, or you can allow them to see at the end of each question and at the end of the quiz to know what they got wrong, or you can say don't show correct answers at all. So there's some customization there for you as well.
Great, thank you. All right.
Can I say one thing?
Sure, go ahead.
It's not smart to allow them to see each question that they got wrong, because that slows down the process, especially if you're timing the assignment or quiz. So as an instructor, you should never allow them to waste time and say, oh, I got that wrong. And then they start perseverating on that and they can't go on to the next question. And then they lose time and they don't complete the whole quiz. So I always wait until after the entire thing is done and then the whole class has completed it. And then we go back and look.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
Yeah, and we're hearing more of the need to do timed quizzes, given that everybody is distance learning. That's coming up a lot. So you can set the time controls to be pretty tight. Have the quiz start at a certain time and end at a certain time, so the students have a limited amount of time to complete the quiz. So you can definitely set that when you publish the quiz. Okay, so we've got a question from Kari Horn. Go ahead. Oh, Kari, I think there you go.
There we go. Yeah, my question was, you guys have some material that has already been pre-programmed in for specific textbooks. I did that last semester with my kinesiology course. And I was just wondering if, as you guys are updating everything, are you going to update new material in those specific course sections that you have also and adding things to that? Just didn't know if that was in the works.
Yes, for most courses we will update them. I think it just depends on the course, but if you have a request for that, just let us know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we can help out.
And I second the need for being able to time the exams and the quizzes that we have. And I do the same thing where after a period of time when everyone has come through and submitted their quizzes, because sometimes you have a student that just, got sick, misses it for whatever reason, you need to extend the time period for that particular quiz and then allow everyone else to see the answers after everyone has submitted what they needed to. And then open that up on specific times so students can go back, review their material that they submitted, find out what was correct, incorrect, and then prepare for their next exam.
Great, thank you. Any other questions about, Visible Body Courseware, or, we can absolutely open it up to, just questions about teaching the lab online, because that's what everybody's doing now. It's not, it's a big change for sure. So feel free to ask any questions you'd like around those topics. Hang on one second. Okay, so Kristen, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I would love to see how you would approach teaching gross anatomy online with this particular platform.
Great. Chad, could you speak? You don't have to do a demo or anything, but just speak to some specifics around how, when your class went online, some of the things that you did with Visible Body.
Well, our class hasn't taken place yet. So during this whole thing with having to go online virtual, we were already done with our course the previous semester. But I think probably thinking of it this way is that if I didn't have the ability in some capacity to get the students back into the lab this summer for the course, I would certainly be utilizing the virtual quizzes for the Dissection Lab as a learning assessment for sure. I think the reason why I went the direction of putting together Screen-O-Matic videos was over the last couple of months, I did not know whether or not we were going to be able to go back into our late summer session course or not. So the ability to do my own screencast videos doing virtual dissections and showing that to the students, I figured was going to be very helpful, and I think it'll be helpful in the flipped classroom format that we're using. The other key thing is that students, I think sometimes we feel like students know how to use iPad and iPhone technology because their generation has been around this, you know, and when I first started using the courseware a couple years ago, I realized very quickly that they really need some tutorials from their instructors on how to use it and having us really showcase it to them. So I think when you have like video footage of you manipulating the app and going through the virtual dissections, I think that really helps the students quite a bit. You know, if I wasn't able to get in the cadaver lab at all, there's certainly other things that I would have incorporated too, which would have been a combination of synchronous and asynchronous, but certainly I would probably have live Zoom sessions where I could broadcast on my iPad going through the virtual dissections and illustrating the anatomy to them to help supplement for that loss of the lab environment for a cadaver lab.
Great. Thanks, Chad. But we could show a little bit more. We do have a lot of lab activities that can be done and completed by students. They're PDFs, but now we've made them, I guess this is, I don't know if this is a correct word, fill outable. So the students can download the PDF and actually fill out their answers on it. So Kristie Link, would you mind showing just an example of one of the lab activities? And these are really comprehensive. We have several of them. So this is one way to, you know, give students an in-depth assignment that they can do virtually. So they would, and you can assign it right in courseware like Kristie Link did, put a link there.
Yeah, so they're broken up by a few pages that walk through a pre-lab activity, kind of familiarizing student to some of these terms, and then an in-lab exercise. And these are here, the fillable spaces that they can enter in here right in there with their, like electronically through the PDF. And then they can save this, download it themselves, and then they can submit that to you by email or through your LMS.
And Kristie, and there's a question on how to get these.
Oh, yes. So you can get them, you can certainly check in with your rep. We'll have everyone kind of follow up as well, just to see if there are any questions afterwards. But so we can send them to you in this course that has them all together. The other way to get the lab activities is by going here to the toolbar on the left that says Instructor Resources. So on this page, we have packed in some things for you to have access to answers and kind of tutorials getting started really easily. Halfway down this page is the free resources section and the lab manuals. And I realize that this is kind of small, so let me see if I can make that a little bit magnified. Is that working?
I think there's just
Not
like a second lag.
Yeah. But you'll see that the lab manuals are right here, and you can go to the lab manuals based on the app that you're looking at, Atlas, AMP. So if we went into AMP, for example, you just walk through this. You can choose to subscribe or not, but you can just kind of bypass that if you want. And then here is where you can choose which lab manual you want to download and or take a look at. And then you just easily download, and then we'll open up for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so Shelley, I'm going to unmute you. Thank you so much.
Albert, come here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I just offered because I know that everyone's trying to figure this out. So I figure I've been teaching it for 2 weeks now. I don't know how to turn on my camera. I don't think I can. I'd be happy to share whatever. But we do about a 1 hour lecture, and which could easily be a flipped classroom style where they're doing it on their own outside of class. And then we do a synchronous small group lab using Visible Body. I've created my own labs. I like the labs that you guys have, and it's very similar, I guess, in some ways, but a little more condensed maybe. They're a little bit smaller and smaller packages, I guess. So we'll do specific regions. For instance, we started with the gluteal region, and so we had 5 different labs that went with the gluteal region. One was just, I guess, gluteal region, and then the joint, and then posterior thigh and anteromedial thigh. And so each one was their own lab. And so during class, I would actually have them work together to identify each of the structures on the lab, and then basically like I would do in the cadaver setting, except without the dissection aspect. And then I also list questions along with that during specific to our topic. I come from an athletic training program, so that's they're a little more specific to some things that they would need to know for our profession. But we do that 3 days a week, and right now we're on our 2nd unit. So there's a question that asks if I create the labs on Visible Body. So I actually open it up and build the lab superficial to deep, and typically superior to inferior for whatever region that I'm in. So right now I'm building the foot. So I'll go through the layers of the foot and basically work. Probably, I don't know how exactly I'll work that one yet, because I haven't looked at it, but basically superficial but deep in the foot, because it's harder to go anterior posterior. And then basically I just have them open up the Human Anatomy Atlas and give them the view that they need to look at, but I don't really create much for the class itself. I do create quizzes for them to use for practice on identification. It's just identification, so that's all for them to use on their own time. And then for our assessments, I definitely use it for some more conceptual questions about innervations or attachments, or we do a lot of musculoskeletal and neurovascular stuff, not so much system. I don't know if that answered that question totally, but
yeah, no, that's super helpful. We could show too, it's super easy to create an assignment if you did want to send the students to a particular view in Atlas, or assign one of those labs within the platform. Kristie Link, would you mind just walking through a folder and how the students, and like a folder of, actually you may not have to walk through that, more the create an assignment functionality that helps, that really allows you to direct the students to exactly the content you want them to learn.
Sure, absolutely. So if I'm in a course, the top right of the page, there's a blue bar. That's where you'll want to kind of always look for creating new content, whether it's a quiz question or a quiz or an assignment. So that brings me to my next page, where I can now choose where I want to get the content from. One of our 4 apps, or the graded quiz bank, or I can also upload my own file. So if you were to download the PDF version of the lab, this is what you would do to upload that here into your course. If we wanted to choose, for an example here, the Atlas app, then I can take a look at the different content views that I can choose from. And you'll see that this matches up with the headers in the app. So we have regional views, system views, and then anything that you want to add, I can choose to maybe add this whole, the whole system view, every one of them, or by checking this box here next to digestive system views, or I can choose just a few by clicking in each of the respective boxes on the right-hand window. So we give a little preview here. Once I have my assets selected, I can see I have 4. Then I will hit continue. And then I can name this. I can set an assignment due date. I can also choose to delay releases. So if I want to kind of have everything set and ready to go to publish on Friday night, or let's say Sunday night, then I can have it released then and then have it due maybe on Tuesday, and I'll choose a folder. If I don't have a folder for this particular assignment yet, I would just go to create new and name my new folder. And then here's where I can add in a description. So this is optional. If it's self-explanatory and you don't need a description, then you don't have to write one in. But if you want to guide the students specifically, maybe to specific structures that you want them to identify, if they have a list, you can write that in here as well. And then you can save this as a draft if you want to come back to it to work on, or you can publish it now. Any questions about that?
Let's see. We do have a question. Professor Yupin, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question about sharing the same course. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Because we will have, because the social distancing, so I know our classes will be, adding more faculty. So I'm just wondering, because we really want to streamline the whole cohort for the same material. So I'm just wondering, for example, if I'm creating the assignment and I like to share with my colleagues so they don't have to do that again, is there any way that inside the program I could somehow like share with my colleagues?
Yes, yep, thank you for asking. You definitely can do that when you create your assignment. If I'm looking here at this anatomy and physiology sample, all the way to the right, there's an arrow that drops down. I'm gonna click on that and you can say send a copy.
Oh,
so
okay.
when you send that to your other faculty members, they will then have that same skeleton course that you created. So everything will be consistent across the different sections.
Okay, great.
Similarly, if you, I've been working with a lot of lab coordinators who are actually the ones in charge of creating the whole master copy, and then they need to have maybe 5 sections, each section having a different lab coordinator. If you do have to do that, you can also share a course and have co-instructors on a particular course. So if I click on my course, I'm gonna go to the sample, I would use the invite people link just like I would with my students,
Okay.
but just make sure that the instructor you send this to is already logged in, so that when they are logged in and click on the link, our system will recognize that they're an instructor and they will be added here as a professor for your course with you. So you'll see both of your names at the very top.
Okay,
And then you both will have access to making edits or things like that, changing and editing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kristen, go ahead. I think your hand is raised, so you can ask your question.
I'm sorry, I never put my hand down.
Oh,
Sorry
that's
about
okay. No problem. All right, so any other questions before we wrap up? We're happy to stay on if there are more questions. All right, so we will we've recorded this. We will follow up with the recording. And before we go, I will just type my email address in the chat here so that you have it. If you can feel free to email me if you would like a trial, or get in touch with your Visible Body rep. We have a whole team ready to help you and support you. you can always go on our website and fill out any form. That those actually go to real people who will get back to you very quickly. So we are here ready to support you in any way that we can. So if that's just, starting off with a trial, we can do that. We can help you set up a course and really support you and your students every step of the way. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much, Chad. Really appreciate it. This was so valuable.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.